grace and forgiveness that he even though I don't want to say I was in sin, like we weren't. I didn't think we were away from the things of the Lord, but I think that we may have just slipped up. We may have gotten comfortable in our relationship with the Lord and our walk.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you said, things like this don't happen overnight. It's
Right.
little by little, all these things that pile on. And I think that was when we had the big turning point in our
Yeah.
marriage.
And can I say that I remember years ago I had mentioned let's do marriage therapy, and I don't know why I said it, but like I was just like, let's do marriage therapy. And you were like, okay, yeah, yeah, but we never did. And when you brought it up again, 5 years ago, let's do marriage therapy, or let's do marriage, yeah,
Counseling.
counseling, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, in my mind, I was kind of like, well, no, it's a little too late, like, because, I knew that I wasn't right in my mind. And when you brought up therapy, I remember we started therapy, like you said, in Zoom through Zoom, and we started in the same room because I remember I had a little notebook, and I started just writing down notes. Um, so crazy, but I started writing down notes and just do my diligency, like I like so I can look like I'm being that wife that cares right now, and just I don't know if you remember this, and and I guess after that, you know, can you kind of like just tell us like what happened? And this is kind of like where our story begins. Of
Our restoration
Yeah,
story,
story
our marriage
begins. Yeah,
restoration story.
this
Um,
is where you like you said our story this was our turning point.
yeah, that's when
A few
I
weeks
felt,
later,
a
few
few
days
years
later.
later, I felt I was really at that point trying to get closer to God. I was intentionally like praying more and just seeking Him more, and worship, listening to worship music more.
Hmm.
And one night I was, getting ready for bed, and then I felt God tell me to check your iPad, check your
Yeah,
phone, your
yeah.
messages, and it was just a random, like, okay,
Wow.
which I don't think I had ever done.
Yeah,
And that's when I found messages that you were in a relationship outside of our marriage,
yeah.
and that's when our marriage, I guess it had already hit rock bottom, but I wasn't aware of any of that. Like I said
Hmm.
to you, like I had sensed that we were a little distant,
Yeah,
but I didn't think it was to that extreme.
yeah.
So
Hmm.